Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Well, let's say hello. And how are you this morning? This camera here, in the middle here? Okay. For those of you, welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio, and now you are in touch with arguably the greatest show in radio, and that is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. Now, that is my opinion, but the reason I say that is because Mr. Fuller tells the truth. When you tell the truth, you don't have to remember like they do. You have to remember a lie. You got to work if you lie. He tells the truth. Now, you don't have to agree with it, but the truth is a truth, and the truth stays truth. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, or when he makes his statements or comments with your questions. And today's topic is going to be entertainment. Entertainment in the system of white supremacy, racism. Thank you very much. White supremacy, racism. You have to focus on that. Entertainment in the system of white supremacy, racism. And for those of you who have his book, which he will talk about at the 45-minute mark of the program, you can start on page 121 of the revised edition and a revised expanded edition. So we're going to go out of there. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Hey, listen, you can call 1-877-932-9766. You can also view and hear us on the YouTube channel by going to the channel, typing in Talktainment, and then you type in radio and then Talktainment number 2, and there you are. Hit the subscribe and like button there. You can also go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage and just hit listen live. You're right there. You don't have to do anything. Just listen live. While you're there, hit that gold donate button too, which we will talk about. You can also go to, if you want to get in contact with me, 7 Mr. Bobby, Bobby @gmail.com. You can do that, and also to hear the program in its entirety if you so desire. And I have heard this on this. You can go to Facebook.com/Talktainment, and the whole program, or the entire program, is on there. One more house cleaning thing. Periodically during the show, I'm going to be giving out addresses for donations. Thank you for those who have given donations. Some of you didn't know where, so I'm going to, not all at one time, but give out places where you can donate. You can go to www.talktainmentradio.com/pay now. That's the PayPal option. And if you don't want to do that one, you can do this. You can mail it into the K&E World Network, LLC, Talktainment Radio, 462 Walnut Street, Post Office Box 6184, Columbus, Ohio, 43206. Those are two of the of the three. And on the top of your check, if you do decide to do that, payments are to be made to K&E World Network, LLC, DBA Talktainment Radio. Okay, let's go. Today's program, we're going to talk about entertainment. That is the third area of people activity, the shortest area in the 9 areas of people activity that Mr. Fuller has mentioned, talktainment, or entertainment, excuse me, entertainment. And Mr. Fuller, let me start off by saying good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, loud and clear, very good. How are you this morning, Mr. Fuller?
I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Okay, let's get into this morning. Entertainment of the 9 areas. Mr. Fuller, when you put this together, speaking about entertainment, what were your thoughts and your actions? Well, we know what your actions were, but what were your thoughts in doing it, and why is entertainment one of the 9 areas that you mentioned?
Well, it's a way, entertainment I think of as when people interact with each other in a way of getting each other's attention. That's basically what it is. One person interacting with another person. And trying to get that person's attention so that that person can call attention to him or herself for whatever reason you're calling attention to him or herself.
Mm-hmm.
You might say that tattoos are a form of entertainment. Getting on a stage is a form of entertainment. What you're wearing, what you call clothing styles, that has to do with entertaining. You're entertaining, you get something new and you to wear, and you go on a job or something like that, and you are looking in the mirror before you go. That mirror is for what? To prepare you to go on the stage of your existence, wherever you happen to be. If you have a mirror and you're looking in that mirror deliberately, and you want to see yourself in that mirror, you're preparing to entertain someone who will be looking at you when you go out wherever you go. That's what you're doing it for. Otherwise, you can explain what other reason you have for doing it. You're seeing that your hair is a certain arrangement that you want to entertain the people when you walk away from that mirror, and you want to go and have other people look upon you. And or you might have a certain piece of clothing or a cloth around your neck in the northwestern hemisphere, and in what they call business circles, they call it, for males, a tie, necktie they call it. And so you make sure that that's on in the position that you think is most acceptable to people when you get ready to entertain, meaning get their attention to what you're about by wearing that particular piece of cloth around your neck. I don't know the history of neckties. I think that would be interesting for somebody to look into, because some of them are very, very, very expensive, sold in stores that sell nothing but what they call neckties. So you might ask a question, what is a necktie for? Well, it's a piece of cloth that you put around your neck. When you put around a piece of cloth, you put around your neck in order to do what? Well, in order to entertain someone. And what do you mean by entertaining someone by putting a piece of cloth around your neck and calling a necktie? You're tying up your neck.
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody might ask those questions because, there are reasons why people do things, or there should be. They should be able to explain why they are doing whatever they are doing and what they expect the results to be, because people sometimes make great effort to do things like that and take great pains and sometimes go to a lot of expense to do so. So entertainment, basically, broadly speaking, It's just getting the attention of others. And you do this in all of the areas of activity: economics, education, labor, law, politics. Politicians want to get the attention of others. So political action could be a form of entertainment, or a blend of the two, because all of the 9 areas blend into each other because they have to do with what we call people activity. So politics, religion, a lot of people say I've heard people say who call themselves Baptists in the Christian religion, that they went to church and that they had what? A good time. Good time. And say, well, what do you mean by you went to church and had a good time? Well, we had a band there from out of town, a choir there from out of town, and they brought their organs and their harps and whatnot, and they played good church music, and I really enjoyed it, and I really felt good when I left there, and so they presented themselves in such a way that I liked what they played. I liked the sound of what they did. I liked the way that they looked up there behind the podium, the pulpit, the pastor, whatnot, or over there to the side in the choir section. Oh, they had a wonderful choir. And I was, entertained. But you're talking about religion. But you were entertained. Or it could be, it wasn't anything musical. It was this out-of-town preacher that came there. And boy, he really was entertaining. I mean, I really felt good when I left there. I mean, he really got my attention. I usually sleep through most of the sermons that we have here. I don't intend to, but sometimes it's a little bit dull. But this fellow we had last week over there at Mount whatever it was, the name of the church, I mean, he really kept everybody lively and awake. And it was really entertaining. So lots of things can be considered entertainment. So it comes down to a question of, what is entertainment for? It's to get people's attention. And then you might have a lot of questions that come behind that. Get their attention in order to accomplish what? And that is a very important question. If you're going to do anything to get someone else's attention, in other words, hey, stop what you're doing, or just momentarily look my way and look at me, because I got some entertainment here for you. I got something for you that you didn't have before, and you just might need it. So anytime you're attracting somebody's attention, or someone is attracting your attention, you might call that entertainment, and then you ask the question, what is it supposed to accomplish? And you might have some other questions. Is it going to have a constructive effect or a non-constructive effect? Because in every area of activity, everything that people do is supposed to have a constructive effect.
All right. TalkTimeAtRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. And here's 3 that I'm going to share with you. Wiggins World with host Stacy Wiggins, All in the Family with S. Yolanda Robinson, and This is Libby with Elizabeth Rand. Now, all these shows are exclusive to TalkTameAtRadio.com, and you can go to TalkTameAtRadio.com, click on the programs for scheduled times, and you'll see a little bit maybe about the host and so forth, and sample them, see how you like it. All that from TalkTameAtRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. The phone lines are open at 1-877-932-9766, so you can call that caller that called. Yeah, thank you for calling back. You can also access the program by going to 7mrbobby at gmail.com. Now, I don't know if I will get a chance to read it, but you can access it that way. And I did mention that for making donations, and I'm going to be repeating this quite frequently, but another way that you can do this is by electronic check. Make it to K&E World Network LLC, E. Dozier 625 at gmail.com. Okay, I'll do that again. Electronic check, K&E World Network LLC, E. Dozier 625 at gmail.com. Okay, we are speaking of entertainment, but we have a caller on the line. Caller, good morning, and you are on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. I got a question for Mr. Neely Fuller. I would like to know how his care mate feel about his message, and how was he able to meet his care mate speaking and thinking the way he does.
Oh, that kind of ran past me right quick there. I'm a little slow picking up on what the question was. So, can you say that again?
I had a question. Yeah, I had a question with you knowing what you know about systematic white supremacy. How did you meet a care mate?
Okay.
Yeah. How did you meet your care mate? And also, how's your relationship with your care mate in you knowing about what you know about white supremacy? How does that affect your relationship?
The interaction that I have, the arrangement that I have, I don't call them real relationships, because prisoners of war are not allowed to have relationships, and I am a prisoner of war. If you're a victim of white supremacy, you are a prisoner of war. I mean, you have all the characteristics of a prisoner of war if you're still in that status. And I see myself still in the category of a victimized person. In other words, there are people on the planet who have great power over me, and they assume that they have that power because they say that I am the incorrect color, or I am the correct color to make me eligible to be a person who is supposed to be dominated and mistreated because of color in my skin. And that's what racism is. That's what white supremacy is. So it dominates my interaction with everybody that I interact with, but only as a prisoner of war. So in my care mate, what you might call wife, spouse, etc., I really don't have the type of interaction that I should have, because in the system of white supremacy, as a prisoner of war, you don't have the type of arrangement, the type of relationship that you should have with any people, including offspring, what you might call kinfolks, grandparents, parents, cousins, uncles, co-workers. If
Not
you
to
are
cut
a
you
person
off,
of color,
Mr. Neely Fuller,
yes.
Are you telling me basically the relationship you have is it like turbulent? But I'm kind of curious because I think it'll be like kind of like a struggle trying to find a care mate who would accept those principles. Now I internalize your principles about justice, but in this world, man, it's like you're trying to find a lady, man, who's on the same page with that. I don't see how it can be done like easily. So I'm just trying to figure out how you did it, so I can try to implement it and maybe teach others to go that route.
Well, no,
You get
no.
what I'm
Well,
saying?
in direct answer to your question, it can't be done the way it ought to be done on account of your prisoner status. See, like when you take your vows, you say, I promise to do this, I promise to do that. You can't keep any of those promises because those promises have to be guaranteed by people who are opposed to you, meaning the white supremacists. If you're a person of color anywhere on this planet, the white supremacists are going to disrupt all those promises. You can't promise anybody anything as a prisoner of war. Prisoners of war can't make promises that they can keep.
Excuse me, Mr. Fuller, not to cut you off, but it kind of sounds like basically, it's kind of like if you're trying to get into a relationship, it's almost like you're just going by the seat of your pants, pretty much, from what I get from what you're saying.
Absolutely, you're doing the best you can, but you cannot, and this is the bottom line, according to the code, you cannot get it the way that it ought to be. You can get it where it's workable, but you have to keep your vision very low about what that interaction is going to be. It's an arrangement. It's not a relationship. That's how the code, that's the word that the code uses. Non-white people, black people, when they have what the code calls your care mate, a person that cares. You care about them, they care about you. But that care is very limited because that care has to be guaranteed by the plantation masters, by the white supremacists. They are the ones that will determine how you are going to get along with that person that you call yours, or he or she, or whatever category you choose to call it. Your relationships are not going to be relationships the way they ought to be under the system of justice, because you're not under the system of justice. You're under the system of white supremacy, which makes you, if you're a person of color, a prisoner of war. And prisoners of war cannot guarantee anybody anything. They can't even guarantee where your next meal is going to come from, because the white supremacists...
Mr. Fuller, I got one last question.
Yes,
one last question. Does all that you just said, does that make you angry as a prisoner of war?
It does if you don't understand that you are.
Does it make you angry at the white supremacists? Is what I'm saying.
Oh well, yes, but
because they had that kind of control over
it. It may with some people. It doesn't make me angry. I've long gotten past that. Initially, that might have been my reaction when I realized how bound up I was, that I was a prisoner of war, that no matter where I went, I mean, the first thing people are going to notice is the color of my skin. That's anywhere in the world, and they're going to immediately say, you are a prisoner of war. And in many places, what are you doing here? What are you doing under these circumstances? And if it looks like you're doing anything that's progressive or constructive to help yourself and all like that, in the system of white supremacy, the white supremacists are taught they're supposed to disrupt that. That's their job. They know you're a person of color, and you're going to do something constructive. Anything that you do that's constructive is supposed to be in my interest as a white supremacist, but not in yours. Anything you non-white people, anything you black people do among yourselves, including all of your so-called relationships, is supposed to be non-constructive. And I will see to it that you are always doing that, or you will suffer some kind of consequences from me. So that's why we're always at each other's throats and whatnot, because that's the kind of deal that they made with us as prisoners of war. You can get out there in the prison yard and fight among yourselves, males with females, males with males and whatnot. Just fight, argue, squabble, don't agree on nothing. That's the way the white supremacists want it. Now, when you start trying to level that off and trying to say, hey, let's stop all this fighting among ourselves. Let's stop all this killing. I'm no longer going to beat up on my female partner. We might disagree with things and all like that, but it's going to always be in a peaceful tone. We're not going to raise our voices. We're not going to have arguments. Well, the white supremacists said, oh, no, you can have arguments. Oh, no, you're going at each other, because I'm going to see to it you go at each other. You just wait to what she has to say when you walk in and say you just lost your job, all right, and you just got the job last week, all right, and still got a job and she's paying all the bills. You just walk in and tell her that, and I'm going to sit back and enjoy you all fighting about that, because I set it up so that would happen. I set it up so that you would lose your job. You're not even supposed to have a job, because I know when you go to her and say that, you want to make babies and you want to pay bills and all like that, but you don't have a way of taking care of none of that, I know she's not going to like it, and she's going to be real surly and difficult to get along with, because she's paying all the bills. She's got the eviction notice on her dresser, in her name, and you're not doing anything to get that eviction notice off that dresser. You're going to have conflict. And we intend for it to be like that, because you are a person of color. And people of color are not supposed to get along under any circumstance in my prison. That's the voice of the white supremacists. Now, when you realize this, then you act according to a code that you make up on your own that's not in line with the white supremacist code, because they intend for you to collide with everybody except them. When you come around them, that's when you're supposed to be real peaceful and act like you got a whole lot of sense. And if you notice black people, they do that. We bust loose when we come around each other. And that's not only male with female, that's all over the neighborhood. That's when we bust loose. All that anger, we just take it out on each other, which is what the white supremacists got it set up for us to do. Once you understand this, then you stop being angry with other black people, really, because you understand why we act the way we do. We're like people in a slave ship at the bottom of the slave ship, chained together, and we ran out of food. And somebody comes to the hatch and throws down just 2 or 3 pieces of cornbread. Mm-hmm. After a week goes by.
Okay.
Now, you know what's going to happen.
Right.
Everybody in there is going to be fighting over that corn.
Could you read that during the existence of white supremacy?
We're on page 121.
Yes, sir. About 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 paragraphs down, the 5th one.
That starts with what?
During the existence of white supremacy.
Oh, during the existence of white supremacy? Yes. During the existence of white supremacy, this is just a suggestion now. Always expect most so-called entertainment for non-white people to be basically pitiful, primitive, stupid, and or silly. Now, that's among the non-white people throughout the entire world.
Yes.
Always expect this when we start talking about non-white entertainment, black entertainment, you might say.
Yes, sir.
Expect it to be in one of these 4 categories or all. Pitiful, primitive, stupid, and or silly. Expect much of this entertainment to glorify the killing and maiming of non-white males and or the trashing and general mistreatment of non-white females. In other words, that's just a flat statement.
Yes, sir.
And when you take a look at what we call black entertainment and whatnot, and just ask yourself, is it kind of really a little pitiful?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or is it primitive? Primitive meaning just basically just not, you're doing stuff, but is it causing your mind to think about anything of any constructive value, getting anything done, solving a problem. See, that's primitive.
Yes, sir.
Primitive means you're not too much about solving problems. You're about maybe making a lot of problems, but not solving any.
Yes, sir.
So you say that, is black entertainment primitive? You know, is when you look at something that black people are doing that's supposed to be entertaining, is it helping to solve a problem in the most constructive manner?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it something that goes to the next couple of categories, stupid and or silly?
Yes, sir.
But you can't see any problem solved there, all right? But you call it, that's entertainment.
Yes, sir.
That's the way that people interact with each other, because that's what entertainment is, just interacting with people and whatnot. But is it producing anything that's going to be constructive or non-constructive? And a lot of what you can expect, like it says there on page 121 of the basic textbook, expect much of this entertainment to glorify the killing and the maiming of non-white males. Black people run all over the place entertaining each other by killing each other.
Yes, sir.
And or the trashing, quote unquote, and general mistreatment of non-white females.
That's true.
And a lot of black males particularly, and non-white people throughout the entire world,
yes, sir,
seem to get a lot of enjoyment out of trashing non-white females and or mistreating them by violence.
Yes, sir.
Direct violence.
Mm-hmm.
Physical violence.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Before we take this next call, that next statement under note, could you read that before we take the next call? It says note.
Now, there's a note up under there.
Yes, sir.
It says, during the existence of white supremacy and according to compensatory counter-racist logic, it is correct to expect the white supremacists, racist man and racist woman collectively, to promote forms of entertainment among non-white people that are deliberately designed to produce non-constructive results.
Yes, sir. Very.
In other words, the white supremacists, when they come around with proposals to help black people to get into the field of entertainment, you can just about expect it to be something that's going to be of monumental, non-constructive value.
That's right. Okay, let's take this phone call. Caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir.
I can't hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes. Speaking of neckties as a part of entertainment, lynching. Do you think, Mr. Fuller, lynching of black males primarily by putting a rope around their necks and hanging them, do you think that was an adequate form of entertainment by the racist white supremacists?
Good question.
Well, yes, when they think about black people, yes, because they certainly don't think about black people. See, the neckties associated, even in 2019, with what? With shirts and suits on males. And they usually call them what? That combination. What you call a suit, meaning a coat and a pair of pants, and a shirt, and a necktie that goes with that shirt. When you walk in with a coat, a pair of pants, a shirt, and a necktie that goes with the shirt, that necktie goes right up real tight, at the top of the shirt. They usually call that what? Worldwide, even among people who are what you might call leaders now, in places like ancient China, all right? But nowadays, in 2019, if you look at television and look at pictures and papers and whatnot, you see people wearing what? Neckties in Indonesia.
Right.
When
I
they're
have one more
doing what?
question.
When they're doing what now? When they are conducting what? Something
Business.
called business.
Yes, sir.
Business. It's called a business suit. If you're serious, if you're a person that's about something, that necktie goes with that. That's the symbolism there. Now, when it comes to black people, there's an old slang about, the necktie being a lynch party. All right? That's what they call it. We're going to have a necktie party tonight over there in Colored Town. Although they don't say Colored Town, they use the N-word.
Use the N-word.
Meaning they're going down there and they're going to grab some black person out of bed and they're going to have a, what? Necktie party.
And they did that stuff.
I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
Lately, I've been hearing the term white nationalism, white nationalists. Do you have a counter-racist codified meaning to those terms?
What I ask, what the code book says you ask, when people use any kind of term, the person using the term should explain what the term means. So any person that you happen to be talking to, and if you're talking to a white person and that person says, for example, that he or she is a white nationalist, and that term is going around now, you just simply say, what does that mean? You go into the question mode and don't argue about the answers. Just keep asking questions. That's how you get to the truth. Stay in the question lane. And if you don't like, or if you were confused about the answers that you're getting, which you just might be, when they start talking, telling you what a white nationalist is, all right? If you still have some questions about what a white nationalist is, ask those questions. Just ask for more details. What does a white nationalist do that a person who's not a white nationalist doesn't do or does do? I mean, you want details. And you can start by just asking, what does a white nationalist do in interaction with you?
Okay.
In other words, if that white person says, I'm a white nationalist, all right, and you say, well, what is that, and what is that, what does that mean when you are interacting with me in 9 areas of activity? As a white nationalist, what does that mean when you interact with me, sir or ma'am, in the area of economics? Just go through the whole 9 areas of activity.
Yes,
That's
sir.
the way you do it.
Okay.
According to the code.
Yes, sir.
And then after they tell you what it's supposed to mean, when they interact with you as a non-white person in economics, then go to education.
Okay.
Okay, sir, ma'am, what does that mean as a white nationalist? How do you interact with me as a white nationalist in the field of education, in the area of education,
All right.
in the area of entertainment, in the area of labor, in the area of law, and then that last one, in the area of war? Does being a white nationalist mean you go to war with me? That you do anything to harm me? And if so, based on what?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that I do that would make you, as a white nationalist, go to war with me?
Okay. Yeah,
All right.
you always ask.
You stay in the question lane.
Yes,
have dozens and dozens and dozens of questions just about that label alone.
Okay. Now, before I ask you about your book, do you use the term white nationalist?
No, I don't use the term.
Okay.
I use the term white supremacist.
Okay, gotcha.
Because I don't know what white nationalist means.
Okay.
I have to ask the person that uses the term.
Okay.
And for everybody who's listening, when anybody uses any term, have the person ask questions.
Okay.
Don't argue about the term.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately go into the question mode. Ask that person what that person means when he or she uses that particular term.
Okay.
Even if you think you know what the term means.
All right.
You don't know what that person means when they're using it.
Got it.
That's very important.
All right. TalkTameItRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I'm the co-host on The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Our topic today is entertainment, but as you well know, Mr. Fuller will answer any of your questions by phone or by Gmail if I can get to them. And boy, we have some of them here. Before I give you the information on donations, this is the time that we have Mr. Fuller to speak about his book. We're way over the time, but Mr. Fuller, could you speak about your book?
Well, I'll just try to make it brief. Just go to producejustice.com, producejustice.com, and the book that I'm reading from now, that will come up on the screen, and later on I'll have the word guide up and the original 1984 edition. This is the 2016 edition, the revised expanded edition, which is the one that I recommend for sure. And I'm reading from it in the entertainment section area of activity today. And you can get it by going to producejustice.com. And the book is designed for the individual person. In other words, you look at it and pick out what you think will work best for you as an individual victim of white supremacy in dealing with racism and in dealing with everything associated with racism, meaning all the things you do every day in association with people, period. White people, non-white people, male, female, young people, old people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Things that you do, things that you don't do. And the book is just full of suggestions. They're strictly suggestions, and you take the suggestion and use it if you think you can use it. Now, the things in there that you don't think you can use, you just leave alone. It's like a buffet, a smorgasbord. I mean, you just go down the line, and they got carrots and peas and pies and cakes and whatnot. You just pick out what fits you, what will help you to do whatever it is you're trying to do. Hopefully, whatever you're trying to do is going to have a constructive effect and not a non-constructive effect.
Okay.
Nothing in the textbook is supposed to help you to do anything non-constructive. It's all about doing everything in a constructive manner that will work for you in the most constructive manner, producing the most constructive results for yourself or for others.
Okay.
Go to producejustice.com.
All right. Now, and for those, like I said, who will want to make donations, here's another way you can do it. You can use PayPal. Just hit the PayPal Pay Now button. www.talktameradio.com/paynow.html is another way to do that. I'm having a hard time getting to the Gmails because I have to take a call. Caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me again?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Fuller, all 9 areas can be forms of entertainment. Could you give us some suggestions on how the people activity of education can be made into entertainment? The people activity of education.
Oh, well, all entertainment is supposed to be educational for victims of racism. Movies, songs, you're supposed to learn something from it. I listened to the song, an old song, came out in the 1940s, 47, by Nat King Cole. I like that song. Nature Boy is the name of the song. And it wouldn't impress most people and whatnot, but I think it's a story in there, in that song, that I like. And it's the punchline in there, too, the way the song ends. the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. Now, that's a flat statement. Is the greatest thing you'll ever learn is to love and be loved in return? I kind of think so. Particularly if you use the word love within, according to the code definition of the word love, love and justice are one and the same. So I say I like that. And I like listening to that song. Sung by Nat King Cole.
Well, who wrote I Told You I Love You, Now Get Out, or whatever?
Oh, I don't know who wrote that one.
That is so funny.
I told you that I loved you, now get out.
Yeah.
Now, I like that song because there's a lesson there. Because, see, just because a person says love, people got, that word love is used all kinds of ways. I love you to death, all right? That's, look at people in what they call organized crime, which is what the system of white supremacy is. I mean, what did Michael Corleone do when he got ready to kill his own brother? What did he do as a good send-off?
I think he said he loved him.
Kissed him.
Yeah, kissed him, yeah. He did.
Yeah. Now, kissing is supposed to be, traditionally associated with what? The word love. All right? When you love somebody, you kiss them. Okay? But they call that, in organized crime, they call it what? When one male kisses another. They call it the kiss of death.
The kiss of death, yeah.
Right. I'm kissing you goodbye. Because we're going to put a hit on you. All right? So people, that word love, you got to really watch out for it. And the way people use it. It's all over the place.
See, that would be a good point where he said, I told you that I love you, now get out.
Yes, I told you that I love you, now you are going goodbye. You're going to be sleeping with the fishes. 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call to get in contact with the show. I don't know why that is so funny to me, but it's true. All righty. Oh, let me try to get to this Gmail here. Okay, get serious here. This is from last week, and this person mixed it with VGQ, and I did ask him to shorten it some. So I'm just going to read a little bit of it, Mr. Fuller. He says this. He said, Mr. Fuller, I strongly disagree with something you said last week, and unfortunately I won't be able to call in this time and reply to whatever your on-air response will be. But last week, in response to a caller's question about reparations, you said that ending the system of white supremacy is reparations. No, it is not. Reparations is about repairing the damage done to us as black folk in America. Cash payments, benefits, land, and all else in the 20s, $20, $50, and hundreds of trillion. And yes, I know that scares you, as you've expressed in the past. Quote, I wouldn't want to be around us if and when we get reparations. I can see it now. Black men sitting on the back of a white stretch limo, weed smoking coming out of both nostrils, and nickel-plated 22s pointed out of both windows saying, I'll kill the N-word and pay for it. We've come to the end of the first hour of the compensatory concept. Thanks for listening. We'll continue in the second hour. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. Talktainmentradio.com.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. Talktainmentradio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
All righty, welcome to the second hour of TalkTainmentRadio.com's The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. And you are in touch with The Compensatory Concept. I am your host, Mr. Bobby. And this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. If you'd like to call in, you can by calling 877-932-9766. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. Daryl, I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to get to your email because, you see how the program goes, but I do thank you for emailing me, and I will try to get to it. Our program today is focusing on entertainment, the shortest of the 9 areas of people activity in the compensatory code system concept that Mr. Fuller has, and we've been focusing on that, and there have been calls concerning that. This person here was writing, so I guess you had said this, Mr. Fuller. I'm going to continue. He says, quote, women, and yes, I know that scares you as you have expressed in the past, and then it's quoted in dark lettering says, this is apparently you, I wouldn't want to be around us if and when we get reparations. I could see it now, black men sitting in the back of their white stretch limo, weed smoking coming out of both nostrils, with 2 nickel-plated 22s pointed out of both windows saying, I'll kill a N-word and pay for it. End of that quote. That was a memorable line indeed, classic. However, Mr. Fuller, I and most black people in this country will be damned if we see this system of white supremacy dismantled and destroyed without us being justly and duly compensated beforehand. I don't want to hear about we'll get our just due in the afterlife. We've been hearing that nonsense from slave preachers for generations now. We want to thrive here on earth like most other groups have been able to do historically. They stole us and denied us and all else. So justice is repairing the damage first and foremost. That's not begging. That's stating and demanding how things will be. Then afterwards, we can talk about becoming full universal man and universal women and eliminating the system of white supremacy. White supremacy. Then he goes on. Mr. Fuller, what say you to that?
Well, I say that the person should say the things under victim's guarantee qualification. He or she is qualified to say that. to disagree. I ask for people to disagree with anything that anybody says that they disagree with. I mean, no one has solved the race problem, but I think that I might have been misunderstood when I said no reparations. I meant reparations, meaning a full repair job, but I said not a day when everybody lines up like it's a payday, Jubilee time, and receive cash money. Everybody walks away from a pay window that they have set up for black people for reparations. And they'll say, this is Reparations Day, all over the place, in every city and every town. Go to the Reparations Center today and bring your ID and whatnot, and or you've already computerized it and whatnot, and you have your ID card, and you show your ID card, and you pick up your check. Now, I say that's not the way to do it. I wouldn't recommend it be done that way at all. Everybody cash their check, or everybody gets cash right there at the windows. They'll have soldiers there with, with guns and whatnot, and cannon and what, to make sure that nobody makes off with it illegitimately, quote unquote. But everybody lines up and gets their money. I mean, and walk away from there with their cash money, a suitcase full of cash. Each and every black person got maybe 2 or 3 suitcases. I mean, one up under each armpit and one in every hand, or they might have to cart it away in wheelbarrows. I don't know about the cash thing, but I say, but my position is a payday like that would be very unhealthy for everybody.
Okay.
Cash money.
Okay.
So what did I say? My recommendation was, why not do it the way, since racism is royalism, and royalty doesn't carry cash. Kings and queens don't carry cash. Kings and queens have everything that money will buy. So they don't carry. I've never heard of a queen of a, in the modern days, or a king riding around fumbling for cash when they got ready to get something. Mm-hmm. I mean, they already had a castle. They were given a castle. They didn't have to go out and shop and buy a house. They were given a house, all right? Several houses. Call them manors or castles and whatnot, yes, because that's royalty.
Yes.
So even when people get all royalties, I mean, they pay them in cash and all like that. That's why they're called royalties. But I think that the cash system for reparations for the damage done to black people would not work at all, because that cash would just be all over the place, and all kinds of ugly things would happen. I'm almost certain of that.
Okay.
I mean, I would hope that it wouldn't, but the information that I have tells me, and my perceptions tell me, that would be a total disaster.
Okay.
But if everything that has been taken away, what you might call a home, all right, that was taken away. Everything that was stolen, you repair that by giving everybody what money will buy. Give them, and what's been taken away? They denied the slaves education. So you get education. See what I mean? We're going to need that anyway. Even if you had cash money, you're going to need education in order to know what to do with cash money. All right? So you should get free education. That would be a repair job. I call it the big four: housing, transportation, education, and health care.
Okay.
Those are the big four.
All righty.
And that's just for openers.
That's just for openers.
But you would automatically get that.
Okay.
All kind of health care, any kind of health care you need. Get all your teeth fixed. Get your eyes and all your family members. Get all of that. That would be the way of getting it.
Got
cash money. What do you need with cash when you can get what cash will buy? Just like kings and queens.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. For those of you, by the way, to make donations and they want to use electronic check, make it out to K&E World Network, LLC, E. Dozier 625 @gmail.com. Okay, we are speaking of entertainment, the third area of people, or excuse me, of people activity. And Mr. Fuller, at the very bottom of page 121 of the Revised Expanded Edition is a very important statement that you made. Very last one, starting with explanation. Could you read that for those that don't have the book?
Yes, sir. It says explanation. When talking about entertainment,
yes,
and you ask and answer following questions and whatnot, and I gave examples early on, but an explanation for some of the examples I gave is, it says here, during the existence of white supremacy, sports, and that's in parentheses, the word sports, and entertainment, also in parentheses,
quotations,
are two things that the white supremacists allow many non-white people to participate in. Sports, something called sports, and something called entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And the white supremacists allow many non-white people to participate in these sports and entertainment. And the non-white people who are allowed to participate in sports and entertainment should do their best to use those activities in a manner that will result in teaching and or learning how to produce, maintain, repair, store, and or transport something of constructive value that is wanted or needed that will fulfill a constructive purpose. In other words, and it continues, all so-called sports and entertainment should be intentionally designed to educate about methods of replacing non-justice with justice, and that such activity can be thought of as edutainment. So entertainment should be edutainment.
Yeah, and that's what you have for edutainment. Could you read
that? You're trying to attain something, and you are trying to not just enter something, like entering a school and whatnot. Your entertainment should be edutainment. It should lead to edutainment. It should lead to something that's going to have a constructive result. All black entertainment, when you walk away from it, you should say, you know something? I went to the theater today, and when I came out of there, or tonight, and I came out of there, and I learned something that could really help me to do this, that, and the other. That's what I did.
Okay.
See, in other words, all so-called black entertainment in the future should be attached to lessons that you can learn.
Okay.
I mean, a song that you write has loaded with lessons that you can learn that can help you in the future.
Yes.
Not do a whole lot of non-constructive or silly or stupid stuff, I mean, which is what so-called black entertainment has been consisted of for too long.
Okay, now, these last two little paragraphs I want you to read in particular. He's not a friend of mine, but I think this would do him good if Antonio Brown of the Oakland Raiders would read this. Really, the whole thing on entertainment, but those last two paragraphs, as long as white supremacy exists.
And that's on page 122. It says, as long as white supremacy exists, do not think, speak, or act as if being praised for your abilities in sports and entertainment means that you are valued as a so-called human being. I'm going to say that again.
Yes.
As long as white supremacy exists, do not think, speak, or act as if being praised for your abilities in sports and entertainment means that you are valued as a so-called human being, quote, unquote.
In the last paragraph?
What many white people see when they look at non-white people performing in sports and entertainment is not a person, but a strange, exotic, fascinated animal, creature, possibly worthy of being sheltered, fed, groomed, decorated, petted, and proudly paraded at the end of a gilded leash.
Wow, wow, wow.
That's what a lot of white people see when they look at a black entertainer in the system of white supremacy.
Yes, this is why we wanted to focus in on entertainment in the system of racism, white supremacy, because I think that point has not been illustrated enough to understand what you're looking at and what's going on. Historically, and Mr. Fuller, you may know something about this, fighting or contests have gone on for ages, but in this concept called the United States, the plantation owners used to put slaves of one plantation against the other in games, just as this has described, for entertainment purposes. And they would bring food to that sometime and watch it and groom these slaves or players or bucks for whatever the contest was. That also led to that word that I don't like to use, but it's called picking. You know what the other part is. But this is what they did. And then they made it into a business. Then they gambled on it. So-and-so plantation, got so much money. Then they formed leagues on it. That's the way, when I look at the National Football League, for example, that's what I see. I don't really see it as sport. I don't, even though they call it sport. I don't see it as sport. What do you see it as, Mr. Fuller?
Well, when it's white people doing it, I mean, that's one thing. When it's black people, it's always, because when you see that black face, that's a uniform. That's a prison uniform.
Mm-hmm.
They say, oh, that's the subject class person. Doesn't make any difference what a black person is doing, whether they're climbing a pole or they're throwing a ball around or bouncing a ball, or whether they're climbing a mountain. I mean, that's an animal. That's an animal that has mountain climbing ability. But it's an animal. It's not a person. It's a thing.
Yes.
It's some type of creature. It's a zombie, whatever you want to call it, but it's not a human being.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that resembles that. And so you can parade them around. In fact, you can put them in all kind of beautiful clothing.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to remember, they do the same thing with dog shows.
Come on now.
They groom that dog.
Yes.
I mean, they pet that dog. They give that dog a golden leash. I mean, it's got a leash around his neck,
yes,
but it's made out of gold.
Yes.
I mean, expensive gold, but it's a leash on a dog. We need to think about that.
Yes. Break it down. Yes, I like that. Talk to Him at Radio is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's three that I'm going to share with you. Let's do this one. New Money with Drew and Janae. The Quay Morgan Hill Show with Quay Morgan Hill, very funny lady. And also Talking Sports with Mr. Bobby. Talking Sports Plus with Mr. Bobby. Matter of fact, we discussed Antonio Brown on the sports show last night. But here's the thing. All these shows are exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com, and all you have to do is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage and click on programs, and there is a list of the programs that are there, and you can sample them and see if you like it or if you don't like it. But you're not going to know it unless you sample it. That and more. All that from TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. Okay, my name is Mr. Bobby. I am the host or the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we are discussing entertainment here, the third area of people activity. And we invite your calls at 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, Bobby, at gmail.com. This comes from Jason. He says this, Mr. Fuller. He says, Mr. Fuller, why do you keep saying all problems can be solved through questions and answers when the biggest problem is racism, racism, white supremacy still exists?
Not enough questions and answers. Not even enough questions. Not to say anything about answers. People don't ask questions about racism. How many discussions consist of racism? I mean, until just recently, a lot of white people are saying it, so therefore, a lot of black people take that as a cue that, oh, yes, well, now I can get back to talking about racism, because it seems like a whole lot of white people are talking about white supremacy, using that term. That's a term I hadn't been hearing down through the years at all. At all. I've been using it, and a few other black people, just very few, like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing and whatnot, that she would talk about it, I would talk about it. Very few other people, even when we have been on the podium, have mentioned the term white supremacy. Now you hear a lot of black people on television using the term white supremacy. Why? Because we take our cues from white people. I understand it. I'm not criticizing it or anything. I'm just saying we don't take an interest in anything until it looks like we're getting some type of cue from white people. Mm-hmm. And that's natural. That's normal for prisoners of war of the system of white supremacy anyway. You always, victims of racism or victims of anything can identify with the people who are victimizing them. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they know that the people who are victimizing them have one thing that they don't have. And what is that? Power.
All righty.
That's how you get victimized.
That's how you get victimized.
You're powerless.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another Gmail from Mr. Weston. He says this. My question, Mr. Fuller, is this. What does it say about white people in general when they're willing to raise more than $100,000 for Daniel Pantaleo, the New York Police Department officer who choked Eric Garner to death live on camera? He was just reluctantly fired by the NYPD after 5 years of protest and more, yet still these people raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for him. We don't see fired teachers, firefighters, doctors, or any other profession receive this kind of love from the public. So what does that say about people we live amongst and their unconditional love of police?
Well, I don't have anything against police, but if a so-called police officer is really a race soldier, there's a serious problem with that. Police are politicians. It's all in the same ballpark. Police, politician, P-O-L, police, politician, polite. A police officer is polite, all right? I mean, they say protect and serve. That's what it's supposed to be about. And you don't do anything beyond that other than protecting and serving people who need to be protected and people who need to be served. But then some people put on a uniform and a badge and wear a gun and some handcuffs of some type and carry a baton sometimes, and they are really not police officers according to the code. They are race soldiers. They are imposters. They are pretending to be something that they are not. And so you have to take each case by case rather than speak of them in general. And I always tell people that. Don't say, that you're anti-police or that the police are doing damage to black people and that the police are black people's enemies. You don't do that. You say race soldiers are the enemies of black people. And race soldiers, some of them sometimes don't even carry guns or anything like that, but they're still race soldiers. Why? Because every white supremacist is a race soldier. People that don't believe in firearms at all. I mean, don't carry one and don't own one, who are white. But they believe in white supremacy and they practice white supremacy. So they're race soldiers too. All right? In the general sense, but the ones that carry guns and do things that they shouldn't do, like murder someone, all right, under the guise of being police officers, they are you might call the spear point of race soldiering. And that's the term that I made up for them, to distinguish between race soldiers and police officers. You got two type of law enforcement people, race soldiers and police officers, and you don't get the two confused at all. A race soldier is a racist, a white supremacist. A police officer is a person who does his or her best to produce justice, meaning guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. That's the duty of a police officer. Anybody who doesn't fulfill that does not deserve to wear that title because that title does not fit. They are not police officers. There's no such thing as police brutality. A police officer is not brutal. A race soldier is.
All righty. Y'all heard it right there. Okay, Mr. Fuller, let's see here. We're still on entertainment. Page 127, right in the middle of the page when you go into the explanation according to compensatory logic, those two paragraphs, that one and the one that is bold, help to end hypocrisy. Page 127?
Page 127, right, and where?
Right in the middle where it says explanation, then you go on to say according to compensatory logic, and then the paragraph right underneath it in bold print.
Yes. Okay, starting with explanation.
Yes, sir.
It says, according to compensatory logic, every song, story, dance, picture, or poem should have a message that causes a person to think, speak, and act constructively.
Yes.
Now that's saying a mouthful.
Right there.
That's saying a mouthful about entertainment. Right there. I mean, that capsulizes all entertainment for black people in 2019 and going forward. According to compensatory logic, every song, every story, and that includes all the people that write books and whatnot, fiction novels and etc. Every dance, if you're going to get out on the stage and do some kind of dance, or just dance yourself. Every picture, every poem should have a message. A dance should have a message. A song should have a message. A picture should have a message. And that message should cause a person to think, speak, and act constructively. And that is every person that witnesses or participates in that dance, that story, that picture, that poem writing, whatever it is, for entertainment, it should have a constructive message that has a constructive effect on the way people think, speak, and act.
But anyway, Mr. Fuller has been answering questions. And Mr. Fuller, we are on page 126, right under that, when it says help to end hypocrisy. Could you read that, please, sir, or explain that there?
Page 126?
Yes, right. No, page 127.
127.
Right under the explanation, then you went to, in bold lettering, help.
Yes, sir. It says, page 127 of the Revised Expanded Edition of the textbook, it says, help to end hypocrisy in regards to nudity and entertainment. Help to end hypocrisy in regards to nudity and entertainment. Now, what's the relationship between entertainment and nudity? Well, when a person says that he or she has posed or danced nude with the intention of being seen by others, according to the code here, it says you ask them what was the ultimate purpose for doing so. You also ask for examples of such activity having produced constructive thought, speech, or action.
Okay.
You see a person dancing nude or posing nude, well, everything is either constructive or non-constructive. So it comes down to why are you doing it, and the people who are looking at it, why are they looking, and what is the result supposed to be? Because everything that all people do, under all circumstances, in this world of turmoil and chaos, is supposed to produce thought, speech, and or action that has what? A constructive result. So in the field of entertainment, somebody's, engaging in some type of nudity, public nudity or whatever, or dance nude with the intention of being seen by others, ask them what is the ultimate purpose for doing so.
Yes, sir.
And don't interfere with the answer and don't argue about the answer. Just ask. And you'll get your answer from the people who do it.
Okay. Let's take a phone call here. Caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Hello. Good morning, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fuller, I wanted to ask you, since you were talking about sports and entertainment, a lot of people will make comments and say, black people run the sports and the entertainment, and what they mean by that is when you look at the football league and the basketball league, it's mostly black athletes, and when you look at the music business, according to a new study, rap music is the biggest genre and it's the most profitable genre. So what people say is that if we pulled out and say started our own record label, started our own football league, started our own basketball league, pretty much we don't need them, which is 100% true. But I know that we're under the system of white supremacy. So my question is that possible that we can pull out of these record labels and pull out from these leagues and start our own?
Well, I go back to the basic principle, according to the code. We're prisoners of war. So it's no such thing as black people having anything of their own as prisoners of war. According to what? Neely Fuller? No, according to evidence and logic. We are either under the system of white supremacy or we are not. And if we get what we call something, our own communities, our own section of town, that's an illusion. It always has been an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
We are assigned where we go.
Yes, sir.
The non-white people of this planet, wherever we happen to be. I mean, the Indians along the so-called Trail of Tears and marching into Oklahoma or dragging into Oklahoma and whatnot. I mean, that was because the white supremacists decided, hey, you're getting out of Alabama and Florida and Georgia, and you go into a place that's, have barren land and a place that we don't want to be in at this particular time until later on they discovered there's some oil there, and then they came there and took that. So that's the white supremacist pattern. So this thing of black people having anything of our own in the system of white supremacy, that's why I say that's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and to have, that's a thing that we have in our mind, that somehow we can have our own this and our own that. You don't own anything. No person owns anything when he or she does not own himself or herself.
Exactly.
In other words, when you are subject to other people, directly or indirectly, in any area of activity, you do not own anything. There's nothing that you can call your own.
Exactly. Mr. Fuller, not that you need verifying, but what you just said about that is true in regard to the term redlining. Now, if people don't know what that is, I would strongly suggest that you understand what they did to us in terms of redlining, and then you will see that what Mr. Fuller just said is absolutely the truth. Remember, we're talking about the truth. This isn't made up or some game. This is the truth. Redlining. Check that out. Just check it out and see what it is, and see what they did to you. Yeah. Before we take that, go to your book, Mr. Fuller, on page 126, almost at the very top. It says about. Could you start there where it says if you are experiencing much luxury?
Yes. If you are experiencing much luxury and much comfort and having lots of fun within the system of white supremacy, do not allow such experiences to interfere with or to take the place of you thinking, speaking, and acting with the intention of ending racism, white supremacy. Do not allow such experiences. If you have a lot of luxury and a lot of comfort, and if you're having a lot of fun, do not allow these experiences to interfere with or to take the place of you thinking, speaking, and acting with the intention of ending white supremacy and replacing it with justice. In other words, fighting racism, getting rid of racism, doing what you can to think, speak, and act against it, and replacing it with a better system, which would be justice, should be your priority regardless of what your circumstances are.
Now, under explanation, Mr. Fuller, this is one statement, those three little paragraphs, that have upset people, but you can verify that. Explanation of what you just said.
Well, the explanation for what I just said is the system of white supremacy is the greatest and most powerful expression of injustice among the people of the known universe. So as the smartest and most powerful people, the white supremacists know how to practice injustice in such a manner as to provide some of their victims with much luxury, comfort, and fun.
Continue.
And experiences of luxury, comfort, and fun within the system of white supremacy is no reason and no excuse for not thinking, speaking, and acting to end white supremacy.
And the last line?
As long as white supremacy exists, all luxury,
yes,
comfort, fun, entertainment, thrills, parties, and or relaxation should be for the direct or indirect purpose of ending white supremacy and replacing it with justice.
Right there is what I'm talking about.
In other words, when you're entertaining yourself and all like that, you should have it in your mind, all of this entertainment that I'm having is supposed to be designed to end racism and replacing racism with something better, and that something better would only be one thing: justice.
Okay.
And what is justice? Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated, and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in every area of activity.
Yes, sir.
If you don't have those two elements, you don't have justice.
Right. Now, I had Mr. Fuller, my brothers and sisters, read that because these are examples that he has put in the book that he is going to describe right now. Mr. Fuller, go ahead and speak to your book.
Okay. Examples?
No. We're going to speak to your book, how we can get the book. Yeah.
Oh, you can get the book by going to producejustice.com, the book that I'm reading from. Go to producejustice.com, and it's segmented in, I used to use the word divided, but it's really not a division.
Mm-hmm.
All of these so-called divisions are really segments, and they're all interwoven one with the other.
Yes, sir.
Areas of activity. I call the 9 areas of activity. And they are listed as economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And it makes suggestions in each one of those areas of activity of, hopefully, the best thing to do in various circumstances if you're a victim of racism, a prisoner of war of the system of racism, here on the planet Earth in 2019 or any other time. And what you can do, suggestions about what you can do in each one of those areas of activity as an individual person, and the things not to do, the things that will work and the things that won't work in your best interest or in the interest of others who have constructive things in mind.
Yes, sir.
Results in mind.
Yes, sir.
And all of these areas of activity blend one into the other. What you do in the field of entertainment affects what you do in the field of religion or sex,
mm-hmm.
or labor.
They're all connected,
or economics, right? And on and on and on.
Yes, sir.
What you do in the area of religion affects what you do in the area of education,
mm-hmm.
and in economics and in labor. All of these areas, they're not divided. They all just, they blend into one with the other.
They're interconnected, aren't they, Mr. Fuller?
They're interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
They're interconnected all the time, 24/7. So you say that, you hear people sometimes make the expression, well, you can't mix religion with politics. Now, what is politics? Politics is people relations, interaction between people, arrangements between people. That's politics. What is religion? A strong belief backed up by action. So you're going to tell me, anybody tell me using logic, that religion doesn't have anything to do with people? If it has to do with people, that's politics. So politics and religion are intertwined. You can't have one without the other.
Exactly.
In order to have a religion, you have to have people.
Exactly.
People, people have religions, all right? People say that they have religions. I'm a person, and I have a religion. Well, does your religion have anything to do with people? That's the question. Yes or no? Does your religion have anything, directly or indirectly, to do with people? And if the answer is yes, well, that's political.
There you go.
So what is politics? Interaction between people.
Yes, sir.
Any kind of interaction. That's all politics is. That's all it ever was.
And where can we get the book?
Go to producejustice.com.
Okay.
And the method for ordering will be there.
All righty. It might be the last Gmail. I don't know. Anyway, this is from Eli. Says this, Mr. Fuller, the 20th of this month, August, so-called marked 400 years in captivity in the USA, counting from what they said to have started in 1619. Mr. Fuller, do you think whom you call the Creator, he's a he, is turning his judgments on the system of white supremacy? There are several scriptures mentioning this 400 years and explaining the purpose of white supremacy as serving the very same purpose that Egypt, supremacy of their time, did under Pharaoh. It was to show off his might as he used Moses to deliver them through miracles. The Lord keeps mentioning what he has done for the chosen people constantly, especially in the Old Testament. VGQ, you are truly blessed to witness his judgments hastened upon white supremacy, even if you both don't agree or realize it. Give the King James Version of the Bible a read and make sure you are prepared. Coming from, he says now, informed POW. So, is he said is the Creator turning his judgments on the system of white supremacy, Mr. Fuller?
My answer is I don't know. I don't know what the Creator's plan is. Different religions say different things. I've heard some preachers, Christian ministers, say that nothing is going to get straightened out on this planet until the second coming of Jesus. Then there are other people of other religions say that's a bunch of nonsense, and they're not buying into that, and that they're not buying into some Jesus being some kind of savior. There are all kinds of religions all over the world, and people argue and fight among Christians themselves. People that call themselves Christians, they fight, argue, fuss, sometimes kill each other.
Yes.
Hit each other over the head with the Bible about what certain passages mean and don't mean. And from what I'm hearing in news, from time to time, is that in all religions, Hinduism, Islam, people who call themselves Muslims fight each other, and yet they say they're Muslims. And that, one Muslim say, my brand of Islam is different from your brand, and let's get it on. Let's fight about that. And so they fight. They kill each other. And Christians, they had what they call the Crusades, I understand. And they didn't agree with other people's religions and whatnot. And even though I've heard many a preacher say that thou shalt not kill, well, all of those knights in shining armor and all like that. And King Richard, I heard about some king named Richard who went on some crusade. I think that's who it was. And what was the crusade? I'm fighting in the name of the cross. Well, what do you mean fighting? You taking some Bibles along and whatnot? No, I'm taking swords. I'm going to chop off some heads. Because people are not worshiping like I say people should worship. They're not doing it the way that it ought to be done. And I don't like their brand. I mean, they should take my brand. King Richard. See what I mean? So I heard this. I may not be getting the details of the story correct. And chances are I don't. Mm-hmm. But I've heard seen all kinds of confusion.
Yes, sir.
In religion. So in a short answer to that question that I was just asked, I don't know what God has in mind when God does certain things or allows certain things to be done. All I can say is it's being done.
Wow. Okay. Wow. All righty. Mr. Fuller, have you heard of the book Black Boy by Richard Wright? It was written in 1945.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
I read that book.
Mm-hmm.
And that book is a book that I would recommend.
Okay.
It's a novel. It's also another one by Richard Wright. Really a couple of more. One is called White Man Listen. I recommend that people read that. That's a very obscure Richard Wright book called White Man Listen! Exclamation point. That's the title of the book.
Mm-hmm.
White Man Listen. And then there's another called 8 Men, I believe.
Uh-huh.
8 Men by Richard Wright. It's 8 stories about 8 black males in different settings.
Yes.
Back when he was coming up. Some of it's supposed to have been based on true stories.
Yes, sir.
And whatnot, but they are basically novels.
Yes,
or
sir.
short stories. 8 Men.
Okay.
But White Man Listen is Richard Wright himself.
All right.
Talking about the racial situation. It's
Well,
a very interesting book, very obscure.
Well, on next week's program, we're going to start off, hopefully, with that book. There's more explanation on that. Black Boy by Richard Wright. Okay, Mr. Fuller, the callers, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, callers. You guys were outstanding. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com.